everyone, this is Jason
and Lorraine,
and this is the Sow the Land Podcast. And in today's podcast, we're talking about what we did this week, and also we're going to be talking about balance. How maybe we balance what we do on the homestead and then the things that we're doing.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions we got from one of our listeners.
Yes, we did a poll out there. We put a poll out there and just asked people like, hey, what kind of topics would you want to hear? And we had a few topics thrown out there, and this was one of them. And this was actually more than one person had this answer.
Had this question.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I think there's some confusion sometimes when, we're doing this podcast and then we're also filming it.
Yes.
And so I just want to say, first of all, this is a podcast first.
It's not live.
No, it's not live.
Yeah. It's pre-recorded.
Right.
In our little studio here, which is the kitchen. And it's pre-recorded. We sit down and we talk to a microphone, and then it's released on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah, and Stitcher, like all these podcast apps. So this podcast is meant to hear it with your headphones, or maybe you're in your car, or on your phone. Maybe you're, in the house, or maybe you're in the garden, or maybe you're driving, or maybe you're on your computer at work, or, it's meant for that. And so we just happen to have the camera on, and we're also putting it on our YouTube channel. So I know some people have commented or messaged us saying, oh, your podcasts are too long when I watch it on YouTube. But, think of it as it's a podcast first. It's meant to be this setup where we're just having a conversation. Yeah. It's not really music or different camera angles or super edited. We're trying to keep it very, very simple.
Right. Think about it as a radio broadcast show. Remember back in the day, before television came out, and people used to sit and listen by their radios?
Yeah.
And people used to kind of just talk into it. So it's kind of like that. I mean, that's what I like to think of it as, like an old-timey radio show.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if we're as funny, but we're entertaining. But yeah, that's what it is first. Yeah. We just happen to have the camera on.
So let's talk about what we did this week.
We had a lot going on this week.
Yes.
This was a very filled week. It was very busy. We had, I think, every day for a whole week, we had something on the calendar, more than one thing on the calendar. It was just like, I'll go here, you go there. And then it's a busy day. And I was saying this to somebody, it's a busy day when you have 3 outfit changes in one day.
Yeah.
So, and then in the meantime, filming in between.
Yes, so, filming, editing, taking care of our garden.
What did you...
This week has actually been a week. We joke around, but it's, have you heard of Shark Week? Well, this is Pig Week. Pig Week on the Sow the Land channel. For some reason, it's just been all about pigs, and we don't even have pigs. So I would be at my friend Justin, and I was helping him set up a pig shelter that he was wanting to make, and help him also move some of his pigs. And then we just got back from helping butcher a pig at our friend Art and Bree's house. And so that's pretty much has been some of the videos I've done this week.
Yeah. And the way that you've built the pig structure, that was pretty interesting. That wasn't like a normal pig pen that you built.
No. I think the idea was he's trying to demonstrate that you don't need a giant, a lot of land to raise pigs. And me, we have no idea how to raise pigs. So it's just kind of interesting that he's trying to do this. And then he also just did a Kickstarter, and he's making a documentary and kind of a workshop of how to raise pigs. And I think that's interesting. That's awesome that he's just trying to, just help people on how to raise food. And it's just pretty interesting to be a part of that and to see that and to be around it. And I think the more I'm around it, I'm kind of getting inspired that maybe we could have a larger animal You know?
Right, because the way that he's saying you don't need a whole lot of land was with what you built.
Yeah.
Which was a carport.
Right.
And you turned it into a pig port.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, you went over again to his house and put the pigs, which these are already like what 2-month-old pigs?
I think so.
Well, they were 80 pounds anyway. So these 80-pound pigs, you had to carry them and like pick them up and like stick them into a wagon and then carry them over to the pig port.
Carry them to the pig port, and then you also put a few in the forest.
Yeah. How was that, lifting up the pigs?
It was a lot of work. It was heavy.
They were heavy.
Basically,
heavy
it was like 3 of us that had to pick up 1 pig, and it was still tough. So that was kind of interesting. Never picked up a pig before.
I mean, 80 pounds isn't heavy, but when you've got like this squealing, squirming animal that's just like, don't touch me, that's gotta be like, that's I think what makes it heavy and difficult, because you're
they're like muscle, like
pure muscle.
Yeah, it's like a giant, like just dead weight. Yeah, it was cool. It was fun though. Like I enjoyed it, and it was just a lot of work, but yeah, it was pretty fun to do that. And then Art asked us to help them butcher their pigs, and they had already cut up the pig. So it was basically, I was there to like cut it up into parts. So they like halved the pig already, and did all the, I guess, I don't know if it's harder work, but but they did that the previous day, and then I was there just to help them to cut it up and to put it in their freezer, and they were going to make sausage out of it. And that was pretty interesting too, just to kind of, because Art knows a lot about the different cuts and what's a pork chop and all these different things, and so it's just kind of interesting to be a part of that too.
That is interesting, because I don't know anything about like different cuts. Like if I had a giant hog laying in front of me that was just freshly harvested, and I had to cut it up, I would not know where to cut or what was what.
No, I know. It's so crazy.
That's good that he was able to.
Yeah.
I hope you took notes for future.
Yeah, well, I shot video, so that's kind of like a journal.
Yeah, that's great.
But still, I think it's one of those things where you have to keep on doing it. Like at least do it like once a year. I don't know how often you can do that, but it would be nice to do it once a year just to kind of refresh your memory and get used to it, and hopefully memorize the different cuts and like just.
Because we're not around that. Yeah. I mean, that's like our modern society, back in the day when our grandparents and their grandparents grew up, they all knew that. They knew how to cut their own pig that they raised on their property, on their farm, and we just go to the grocery store and would buy a nice little neat package. And
I think even like people, I don't know, maybe they didn't raise animals, but it seems like back in the day they still knew their cuts of meat.
Yeah, well, because they could go to the butcher shop and they could say, I want this or that. Now I feel like, I don't know.
I wouldn't know what to say. Just give me ground beef.
or sausage. I just want a sausage, or
bacon.
Or
that's all I know.
Yeah, or just Yeah. So anyhow, it's interesting to learn that and see it firsthand and be around that and kind of immerse yourself into situations like that.
Actually, you haven't been on the podcast for a few weeks.
I haven't. This feels like I haven't done this in a while. We kind of took a little break for a little bit.
Yeah, we took a little break because we actually got new baby chickens.
Yeah, we've had so much going on.
We finished planting our garden.
That was another thing that has been going on lately. Yeah. We've had the chicks come in. We've planted all of our garden. I don't know. Penelope's finishing up the school year with homeschool. We're wrapping that up, and I'm just tying up.
I think spring happened, and then just all these things are going on, and it's just like super busy.
We've been weeding a lot, pulling out weeds in the garden. It looks fantastic, by the way, and I'm really pleased with it this year. We have like all the rows laid out and labeled, and we have this map. It's like, we call it the treasure map, and all of the seeds are already planted, so everything's ready to go. We're just waiting for it to like start popping. So I think that is a really good segue into our question or our topic for this week's podcast, and that was
balance. Like,
balance.
How do we balance everything going on
on the homestead? The answer to that, I don't feel like we're balanced sometimes, but I mean, I think it's just the ebb and flow of life. Just sometimes we've got so much on our plate, and then sometimes there are days where, not to say that like there's a lull, but to say like we could sit down a little bit.
There's nothing pressing.
Nothing pressing, as where we've got the normal routine and we've got it.
There's nothing that absolutely needs to be done now.
Right. Lately, we've been feeling like there's things that need to be done right now. But I think that's just normal for spring. The beginning of spring, it just shoots out at us, and it's like go, go, go. And then maybe in the beginning of summer, we might feel a little bit slower and not so fast paced. But how do we balance it all? I feel like one way, can I say how I balance it as our family? One way we do it is, I feel like one way that helps us is we keep a family calendar, and it's a paper calendar, and it's on the kitchen counter, and that's where it stays, and it stays open for most of the weeks, unless we have company and we put it away. But most every day it stays open, and whenever we get a phone call or email, we write it down on the calendar, even if it's not work related, like Sow the Land related. It just lets us know, because we have one car. We're a one-car family, and that also can create a little chaos if we're not careful. So we keep a family calendar. It's a paper calendar, and it's open. So whenever we are all together in the kitchen, I'll try and sync our mobile device, our cell phone calendars with that. But pretty much they're always synced. And I feel like that helps us out. I mean, what do you think about the calendar?
The calendar, I basically just ask you. I was like, so what are we going on? What's going on this week?
You do ask me, but the calendar's there just in case I forget, because I'm so forgetful.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep track of what do we got going on in June? What do we got going on next weekend? And I feel like there's a lot going on, but if we have it written down, we can't overbook ourselves, and we can make sure. Yeah,
and I'm not good at putting it on my phone.
You're not. You don't have anything on your phone.
No.
But you can always ask me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I have a family calendar that I run, but you ask me.
Yeah.
And I'll say either, go check the calendar, and you can do that,
right.
Or you can just ask me and I'll check the calendar.
Yeah.
But the paper calendar is very helpful. I feel like that creates a balance for us, so that way, like I said, we don't overbook ourselves or book too much, put too much on our plate, and that way we're making sure we get a day of rest or time of rest for our family.
I think we're at the beginning stages though of it's like we're getting forced into creating a schedule, right?
Yes.
I feel like we're at the beginning stages of that.
We are.
Right? Allow this much time to do this, and then from this much time to this much time we're gonna do this, throughout the day. And I feel like we're starting to do that.
Yeah, and we've been inspired. I feel like we've seen a lot of other homesteaders have this type of schedule, and we were like, we need to do that. And I feel like we did that this morning, where we were outside before the sun got too hot. We came inside now that it's really hot outside, and we're getting some inside work done. Whereas before we would just kind of okay, well, this needs to be done first. This is priority, and we would do it, but then we couldn't get outside because it was too hot.
Yeah.
And do our chores. It's evolving, I feel like now we're getting it now. We've got on our schedule. I like that. Yeah, we are getting on.
Yeah, I think it's in the beginning stages though.
Yeah, it is.
We're still working on it.
How many days do they say that it takes to build a habit? is it like, what is it, 14 days that you do something in a row and then you've built a habit?
Oh, I thought it was like a month.
Is it a month? Is it 30 days? It might have been 30 days. But we're building this healthy habit for us of getting into a schedule for our family. And it's hard to stay on schedule sometimes, especially when sometimes you have to leave the homestead for work outside of the home. So that can be a little bit tricky. But, you know, we're still learning how to balance it all.
I don't know. I think I'm pretty adaptable. Like adapting to whatever it is that you need to be doing.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah. And so I think that's important. But as far as balance, I don't know. It's just kind of like, just do your best.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's really no balance. It's just like, what do we have to do today? Okay, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Another way that we've been still just barely kind of figuring out and learning for ourselves is a day of rest or a time of rest. And what that looks like for our family. And I feel like that's very important when we talk about balance. There's no time for rest. And I think you always say that, like, there's no time for rest. But I feel like when we do take some time to rest, we can come back the next day or the next moment and feeling recharged and rested, and we can go back and be ready to work. I think that's something that's really important for our family that we're just trying to guard our time with. And someone had told me about this recently. They want to guard their day of rest. And I was like, that's exactly what we need to do, because I've been wanting to implement a day of rest or a time frame of rest for our family for a long time. And there's always something that pops up. Oh, well, we got to do this and we got to fill up our calendar and something else popped up. But if we guard our day of rest or our time of rest, I kind of feel like that's our sacred time. That's our day, our time for recharging. And it's really important for us. And we got to guard it. And that's something that I've learned as the manager of the calendar, is something we need to do. And like, you know, that looks different some days because we can't say like, oh, this certain day of the week is our day of rest, because, you know, somebody's got to butcher a pig on this certain day. So that, you know, or someone needs help with this or that. And so we got to leave our homestead and it only can be done on that day. But we have to make sure that we do schedule that time of rest into our calendar at least once a week. And I feel like that's very, very important to us.
Yeah, I have a difficult time with that.
You do.
Like, I don't want a day of rest in my mind.
You want to just go.
I just want to keep on going.
I feel like if you don't take a day of rest, you're more likely to get sick. You're become overstressed,
right,
and your immune system is going to go down because you're tired and you've been working. So I feel like it's really important for us to take some rest time.
Yeah.
I mean, doing things that are life-giving to us. And not to say that all of these things that filled our calendar this week were not life-giving. They were. They're absolutely, like butchering a hog. That's so life-giving. And like spending time with our friends and helping, you know, your friend build things. Those are all life-giving things. But I think a moment where we're just kind of doing nothing. I mean, and it's not staring at the wall. Maybe it's sitting down and coloring with our daughter, our 7-year-old daughter, or sitting down and reading a book that we've always wanted to read, or what else? That's a good question for our podcast listeners. What does your day of rest look like for you?
Pulling weeds.
Pulling weeds. Actually, yeah. That was one of our day of rest. We did. We went out and we pulled weeds, and it was shady, and it was so nice. And it was we just sat out there for like a long while pulling weeds, didn't have the camera on us, weren't taking pictures with our phones. And it was just us in that moment, just being in the moment. Because it's hard. I mean, that's what we moved out here for. One of the reasons we moved out here for is to be intentional with our time, and to be intentional means to be in the moment. And it's kind of hard to do that with the camera or the cell phones and people calling us and trying to make appointments with us and stuff. But
yeah,
it's very important, I feel, to have a moment of rest where we're just doing life-giving things that give us rest. Okay, so the dictionary says that balance means an even distribution of weight. And I kind of feel like things on our schedule can feel like weight to us, you know, because it's a little bit here and a little bit there, and after you've put too much on your plate, and it does feel like a lot of weight, and it can seem heavy. And I think that's what our question, our viewer asked the question, how do you balance it? So in my mind, when I picture balance, it's just putting an even distribution of weight. So like I said, we have the family calendar, and we're not going to put everything all in one day. We're not going to put everything all in 1 week, and we'll try to spread it out. And sometimes, you know what that means? Sometimes that means saying no. Mm-hmm. And as hard as that is, sometimes we do have to say no to things. And that's really hard because we want to do it all. I know you do.
I say yes to everything.
I know you do. You do say yes. But there are some things that we do need to say no. You did say no to one of our potlucks this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't able to go to that because you did have a lot of work to do. So, I mean, we do have to say no sometimes, where I'm sorry, I can't go to that, but I can go to this.
Right.
You know, and it's just, that's what balance means, an even distribution of weight. So no, I can't do that, but yes, I can do this over here. So, that's what balance looks like for us as a family.
So I hope that answered the balance question.
Yeah, I think it did. A little over answer. We kind of went on.
Yeah. But if you have any other topics or questions, you can shoot us an email at hello.sowtheland@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment down on the YouTube video, or you could message us on Instagram at Sow the Land. A couple of things that I was on a couple podcasts since last time we did this podcast.
Oh, right.
I was on the So Edible podcast. Just search So Edible podcast on any podcast app.
What were you talking about there?
That one was more of like the class I taught at the Organic Growers School, digital homesteading. And so we talked a little bit about that. And then I was recently on another podcast this week called the Intellectual Agrarian podcast. And that podcast is not out yet. I believe that's going to come out like sometime in June. But I will let you guys know when that'll happen. Also, I'm going to be speaking in October at the Homesteaders of America conference on digital homesteading. We're going to have a booth there, and we're going to be there in Virginia in October hanging out.
Yes, and if you're not familiar with the Homesteaders Conference, it's a fun event, and it's a great way to build community, especially an online community. You can meet people face to face and connect with them, and it's just a beautiful thing to see, like, everyone just hanging out together, and everyone's super nice.
Oh yeah,
it's great. It's a good event.
But I think that's it for this week's podcast. We appreciate you guys listening
and watching,
and we'll see you guys next time.